as well. They said that, the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, if there was anyone that resembled me, it would be Uthman ibn Affan. If there was anyone that would resemble me in appearance, right? And obviously we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was very, very handsome. They said that his face was so bright that it was as bright as the full moon, right? So Uthman ibn Affan was very handsome as well. Very handsome, and everyone wanted, every sister basically in Arabia at that time, or in the Quraysh in Mecca, right, wanted to marry him. But at the same time, even before Islam, he was never promiscuous. He was never flirtatious. He never involved himself with those activities because he knew it was wrong. He protected himself. He protected himself and was modest. And then after Islam, because of his modesty, look how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards him. He rewards him by marrying the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ruqayya, to him. Right? What an honor to marry the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Ruqayya gets very, she gets very ill. And she actually, they live happily, they're having a very happy marriage, but she passes away on the day of Badr. On the day of Badr, when the Muslims win against the Quraysh, right? It was said that on the day of Badr, the Muslims won, but we lost an important person, Ruqayya. Ruqayya, she passed away. So that really affected Uthman ibn Affan. It really affected him, and for 2 years, he was just never the same. He was always be quiet. He would never talk with the Sahabas too much. And one time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to him and he said, "Yeah, Uthman, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And he says that there are two things. One, I've lost Ruqayya, right, which I'm still very sad about. And there's something else. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "What is that something else?" And he says, "I have lost the connection with you." Because Ruqayya was the daughter of Rasulullah, so it was a connection to him. And he says, "I've lost that now." And that instant, Jibreel alayhi salam descends and he tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that marry Kulthum, who was the another daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to Uthman, with the same mahar that was given to Ruqayya. So that's why Uthman ibn Affan is known as the possessor of two lights, because he got to marry two daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Uthman ibn Affan, right? And then after that, let's go to one of the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Fatima al-Zahra, right? Fatima, she was at a young age, she saw what her father was doing, right? And she saw the struggle that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going through. When he was praying one day, he was making sujood in the Kaaba. He's making sajda, and then all of a sudden, right, Abu Jahl and Utbah ibn Muqayt, right, all these enemies of the Islam, they see him and they say, "You know what?" Abu Jahl says, "I recommend someone to go and go while Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is doing sajda, to go and to drop the camel. The camel's dropping and the camel's filth on top of Rasulullah as he's doing sajda." Do I need to? Batteries changed? So as he's going, right? As he's going through, he goes, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is making sajda, and then Utbah volunteers. He says, "I'll do it." And he goes and he gets the camel filth and the droppings, and he drops it right on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Fatima, she comes and she's only 6 or 7 years old. Just imagine this young girl. She sees her father in that state. And then he comes and she cleans him, right? But then she starts to cry. She says, "Rasulullah, why are you going through so much?" And he says, "Yeah, Fatima, don't cry. Verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant victory to your father." And he made dua against those three people that were there at that time. And during the battle of Badr, those three people, Abu Jahl, Utbah, and Shayba, those three, they were the first ones to die in the battle of Badr, right? So Fatima, she didn't get traumatized by this event. She didn't grow up and say, Dad, like, I'm just gonna just forget about this. I don't have anything to associate with you. You do whatever you want. I just can't deal with this anymore. She actually helped him. You know, when Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, when she passed away, right? Fatima was the only one in the house. It was just her and Rasulullah. They used to be in the house all alone, right? So there was that feeling of companionship. There's that feeling of love. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved her so much, right? That when she used to walk in from the door, if he was sitting, he would get up. He would get up and he would greet her, say salam. He would kiss her, and then he would tell her, please sit in the same seat that he was sitting, right? He used to love her so much for all the things. He used to be able to, he said that, you know, I love Fatima so much. But at the same time, the lesson is that, you know, and a lot of Sahabas, they wanted to marry Fatima. They wanted to marry her because, you know, she is the daughter of Rasulullah. And actually a lot of proposals came and a lot of proposals got rejected. And then finally, one day, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he comes. And you know, it's this awkward conversation where they're just sitting, and then he says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how are you doing today? Is everything okay? So I had something to ask you, which I've been wanting to ask you for a while. And you know, your daughter Fatima, and you know, he just gets really nervous. He doesn't know what to say, and he doesn't finish. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knows that, you know, what he's trying to get at. He says, maybe you came here today to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage. And he says, yeah, Rasulullah, I want to marry your daughter, right? And then he marries her. And he says, what's the mahar that you have? What are you going to give to Fatima? And he says, oh, the only thing I have is a shield. And he takes the shield, and he says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that sell the shield and then use that as mahar. So he goes to the marketplace and he sells it to Uthman ibn Affan. He pays him and he uses that as mahar to marry Fatima. Now, did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, no, I need to, you know, marry my daughter to, because he loved her so much, but he didn't spoil her. You know, when they lived together, when Ali and Fatima, they lived together, they always lived humbly. They always lived in a humble way, and they used to, in their house, they used to sleep on sheepskin. That's all they had to sleep on, right? Very humble life. He didn't spoil her. He could have, right? Obviously, that's his daughter. And he could have said that, you know, I want my daughter to marry the richest doctor in the community, right? Many times what happens is, the lesson we can derive from here is we have the wrong perception of how we want to marry our kids too, right? Many times we say that we get so involved in the dunya that we say the person with the best, and it's actually a growing problem in the Muslim community. It's actually a huge problem in the Muslim community. Many times parents want, you know, have this ideal for their kids, right? And it's truly genuine, it's completely understandable. Parents love their children, right? Obviously that's true. Every parent loves their children and they want the best for their children. So they want to marry them to the best of people. But sometimes the ideal way, the ideal thing gets so much that, oh, this person has to have this, has to have this, has to have this. And I'll tell you a personal story, which I didn't think this existed, but it still does. That, you know, there was a person who was a biomedical engineer, and he had a very nice job, right? He wanted to marry the sister. He goes to the house of the sister. He talks to the parents. He's very, like, you know, mashallah, he's a good job, but he got his bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering, right? So he goes and he talks to the father, and then all of a sudden afterwards, you know, it doesn't work out. The proposal wasn't accepted. So the other community members, they notice this, they find out, and they ask the father that, what happened? Why did you not accept this proposal? He was a very good, you know, mashallah, very good kid. So he said, I'm sorry, just he didn't have a master's degree, so I couldn't accept it, you know, for my daughter. And it's shocking to hear that nowadays people still have that feeling that, you know, that he needs to be a doctor, or he needs to be an engineer, he needs to do this and this and this. You know, there's a sign of the Day of Judgment. One of the signs of the Day of Judgment is a man will come to you asking for your daughter's hand in marriage, and he has great iman, and you reject the person, right? That's one of the signs of the Day of Judgment. So many times I think we as a community, as a Muslim community, we really need to figure out and talk to our kids. We need to talk to them and talk to them about marriage, because you know what happens, parents, and I think the parents need to understand, because we live in America, right? We're not living in back home, like in Pakistan or in Egypt, right? Where the parents, the kids just obey their parents, right? There's very serious issue here that if the parents don't connect with their kids and talk to them about marriage, then you know what happens?